What's up, Madden fans? TNT713 back again with a Madden video entitled Surviving Without Shotgun. If you're familiar with any of the videos on my channel, you'll know that I don't use shotgun. Recently, Nicolas, Randolph, and Sam Malec both had questions about why it was that I didn't use shotgun. And thinking about the answer brought me to the basis of why I started MaddenUniversity.com to deliver strategies, communities, and competition to Madden players. So in this video, I'll talk about what led me to the decision to abandon shotgun and how it's changed the way that I've played Madden ever since. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share with your friends on social media, and drop a line in the comments section below. That's right. So believe it or not, shotgun used to be a big part of my offense until Madden 2003 for the PS2 allowed us to go online and play people from all over the world, and it exposed us to all kinds of cutthroat online competition. With no reliable sources of information on how to play Madden better for more than 6 months after the release, the skill gap of online Madden players became nightmarish for players and for the developers of the game. And this is where we'll begin our story. Because online gameplay was so new and nobody knew what to expect, we saw all kinds of offenses run from modified fake punt formations. It was a super duper exaggeration of shotgun. So instead of having the quarterback stand 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage, the quarterback stood where the punter did. So he was 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Not really fair to call it shotgun, so it is a formation I like to call sniper. On top of that, there were the fastest A-gap blitzes that you have ever seen in Madden. The term nano blitz came from Madden NFL 2003 version of the game. And all of these unorthodox strategies required that we rethink. First off, A-gap blitzes dominated online play. It was by far the most prevalent tactic that people used, and it was also one of the most dangerous. It was something that was always on the edge, kept you always on the edge of your seat. Shotgun formations, although used a lot in that game, they didn't stop people from blitzing. And frankly, it just limited your offensive options. Me personally, I used a West Coast style offense, and whenever I lined up in shotgun, it put me in a position where I couldn't use 3, 5, and 7-step timing to time my offense, and I was always a little bit out of sync. And pressure often caused me to drop too far back for my offensive line to protect me, especially when I was in shotgun formations. I tell you, you would have had to seen some of these blitzes and how fast they got in order to really get what I'm saying. A lot of the old school heads, a lot of the old guys, they know what I'm talking about. There wasn't any information. There weren't any websites. There weren't any communities. None of them had built yet. So we had to wait 6 months after the game was released for any of them to come around. And when the online communities finally sprung up, I wasn't satisfied with the information I was getting from my Madden peers. There were a lot of misleading phrases that created convenient excuses for players that have been victimized by A-gap blitzes. As a result, a lot of A-gap blitzes were considered cheating in some communities. Not only did you have to worry about your opponent probably blitzing you, but you also had to worry about people cheating if you used some of those blitzes in other games. And you didn't want to be named as a cheater because you could be put on a blacklist, all kinds of stuff. It was a nightmare. It was cheating in some communities and the basis for weeding out bums in other communities. A lot of online communities profess shotgun as the only way to keep keep your quarterback on his feet. And real life strategies in college and in the NFL seem to back up the arguments, because they were slowly but surely shifting to shotgun and spread formations on both of those levels. The drawback to all of these things happening was that speaking up for football strategy usually meant that you were going to be banned from website forums and message boards and sometimes entire communities just by saying, hey, it's the user's responsibility to block these blitzes. What that ultimately did was it forced people like myself who weren't satisfied with the information we were getting to have to look beyond the Madden community to solve most of the problems that we were facing. And where do we find some of that? We found a bunch of it from books. This one is Take Your Eye Off the Ball by Pat Kerwin. Another is Play Football the NFL Way by Tom Bass. And as you'll see, I've got a lot of these pages tabbed because they still are important. There's the official Vince Lombardi playbook, which has play diagrams of real plays that Vince Lombardi used on. He used it on he wrote most of his stuff down, sometimes on napkins, sometimes on index cards. And then one of my absolute favorites is One Knee Equals 2 Feet by John Madden and Dave Anderson. And the reason that those books are so important to me is because they taught me things that the Madden community couldn't or wouldn't. Alright, I gotta tell you, I lost my first game. Bad. Horrible. Like, the score was 56-3. And I played 12 games before I got my first victory. I lost all of my first few games horribly. So many blowouts. Out of that first 12, I probably got blown out in 10 because I didn't know. I didn't know how to block these things. But through all that, I refused to adopt other people's tactics in order to win. I knew what I wanted to do, and it wasn't what other people were doing. I wanted my game to be mine. And I wanted to prove that you could run an effective Madden offense from under center. So first thing I did was I read a lot of books and I soaked up as much information about football as I could. Eventually, after learning a lot that I was able to actually apply to the game, I beat Feel the Pain, the top-ranked online Madden player in 2003. Smacked him up. Was winning 37-7. When he quit at halftime, and he pulled the plug. With the tactics that I learned and the basic principles on protection that I've learned, I've had 15 straight years of improvement in my win-loss percentage, which proves that these tactics that I'm learning, they're not gimmicks, because they've been effective despite changes that the developers have made to the game every year. So my first step was to start a journal, which basically I used to document the biggest challenges that I faced when I played Madden. This particular journal was started on April 16th of 2003, and I still reference this from time to time. And in this journal, I cataloged every defense and recorded every assignment of every player on every defense, jogged the strengths and weaknesses, the coverages, the pressures, like everything you could think of. I put it in that book. But I also, and this is most important to why I don't use shotgun, is that once I cataloged the defenses, I cataloged what protection schemes do I need in order to block these blitzes. So now that I knew all the blitzes were, how to enhance them, how they were most effective, I needed to know what do I need to do to make them ineffective. And so I built my offense using basic formations that best placed positioned players so that they could block the blitzes that I was facing. The first is, as you can see right here, we've got a base protection, and it's a base look because it involves the 5 members of the offensive line with no help from backs, tight ends, or wide receivers. So basically, if I were to line up and not change anybody and send all 5 guys on my route, these would be the only guys that I've had blocking. You'll find that the A gaps represent the quickest path to the quarterback, and to have any hope of a passing game or passing offense, these gaps have to get blocked. A free rusher through the A gap, through either of the A gaps, will stop a 3-step passing attack before it gets started. So if you're doing a 3-step drop and a rusher comes free through the A gap, if they are close enough to the line of scrimmage, they will sack you before you can throw the ball. Now, as we move to the B gaps, these represent the second fastest way to get to the quarterback. It is the second most important gap to block. A free rusher through the B gap will stop a quarterback from being able to get a clean throw on a 5-step passing attack. On medium yardage situations, these become very important to get blocked. As we move a little further, you'll see that the C gaps represent the least dangerous gap, but they become most important if you're in a long yardage situation, because a free rusher through the C gap will stop a 7-step passing attack, which means on your 3rd and 15s, your 3rd and 12s, those situations, a guy coming around the C gap, although it's the least dangerous, a guy coming around through that gap will put a hurting on your offense if you need to get a big chunk of yards in a hurry. Now, if we move on and we were to analyze a typical shotgun play with base protection plus 1 back, you'll see that the halfback can protect one A gap, but he's basically inviting a blitz from the other A gap. So instead of discouraging a blitz from the A gap, you're actually encouraging them, because you've got one guy who can pick up an A gap blitz on one side, leaving the other one exposed, and your quarterback's already 5 yards in the backfield. So if the blitz gets there, you're going to lose more yards than you normally would. Which is why I based my protections off of I formation. Now in this first set, I start with 2 backs in the backfield, but I motion the halfback out to the slot. So he is a pass in a spot to be a pass receiver. But I still got my fullback lined up in the normal spot where he would line up in the I formation. What that does is, although it puts 2 backs in the backfield, when I motion the fullback to the slot, the fullback can still protect the A gap, and he can get to the B gap with no problem. And that's A gap on either side. I only illustrated this on the right side, but he can also protect on the left side. Now, if I were to leave the halfback in the formation, it creates a situation where if I get a double A gap blitz, in that case both guards and the center are covered with another blitzer packed into those A gaps. So I'm rushing five defenders over 3 offensive linemen. There's no way they're going to pick them up by themselves, especially if the tackles are occupied. Even if the tackles are occupied, even pinching the line isn't going to do anything. So I leave both backs in and have them pass block, and they can pick up those 2 A gap rushers so they don't get in for it. In this diagram, we've got a illustration of a strong eye, but you can also use this for the weak eye. You just be placing the fullback on the opposite side of the field in the same gap that he is on this particular diagram. So strong and weak eye place the fullback offset to one side, while the halfback can still protect slow pressure from any gap. Quick pressure through the A gap still could pose a problem, which is why we've listed those in orange and we've got both of the B gaps in green. Because picking up those B gap blitzes, the fullback will stop it short on the one side, whichever side he is lined up on, and then the halfback can pick up A gap if it's slow pressure. Say if the linebacker loops around, or if there is someone coming like from the 3 yards deep in the linebacker area, 3 yards deep in the box, you can pick that up. But if he's lined up on the line of scrimmage, you might have a little trouble getting to that A gap blitzer with the halfback. So that's why the A's are listed in orange, because there's a little bit of warning there. But you're not in the same kind of danger you were when they were listed in red. Then there's also the far formation, far and near formation. And what that does is it gives you two combinations. It lets you combine the best of the split backs formation, because the halfback is lined up in behind the tackle. So you've got split backs on one side, or split back on one side, so you get all the advantages of that, which means you can pick up the outside pressure, pick up anything from the C gap, you can step into the B gap and block that one, or you can release into the pattern and become a pass receiver, which usually takes at least one blitzer out of the scenario. Here we've got a picture of the near formation, which puts the halfback in the split back alignment on the other side, while the fullback is still in the perfect spot to pick up a blitz through the A gap, either A gap or B gaps to either side. I like this formation because it allows you to do what you want with your halfback, and if you drop between the fullback and the halfback, it forms a nice, comfortable little pocket that you can throw to either tight end or either of your wide receivers. In addition to using formations more effectively to pick up those blitzes, I also mastered some basic protection principles. Not hard to do. It just basically, I put this guy closer to the place I want him to block, because it's easier to block someone when you're closer to them. But in addition to that, these things came years before slide protection or ID the mic was available on the game. So it gave me a nice foundation to build upon, adding other elements to my protection scheme. I shortened my receiver routes so that I could get earlier separation whenever my opponent sent pressure. So I took my 5-step routes, made them a little shorter so that I could turn them into 3-step routes. That way it forced my opponent to have to blitz the A gap, in which time I just picked it up. I use short pass plays on first down to make opponents pay for blitzing early in a series. There's a big difference between 2nd and 8, 2nd and 7, and a 2nd and 2, or 2nd and 1. And what those short passes did when I knew people wanted to blitz early and get you behind on the count is it forced them to lay off. And every so often they would back up on first down and let you run the ball or try to take away that short passing game, which allowed you to do other things. And part of the reason I moved the pocket, I didn't stay in the same place. People blitz you at a certain spot. If I know I'm going to be sitting in this chair, you know where to send your pressure. If I decide I'm going to go that way, if I'm going to go that way or that way, you don't know where I'm going to be. So then you're like, well, if I rush the C gap and he rush the C gap on this side and I roll that direction, you're not going to get me. So these are a few of the things that I was able to do. And I developed a motion offense that attacked the flanks, the seams, and the short middle to discourage anybody from blitzing me, because those are the places that they're going to be most vulnerable if they decide to send pressure. And it basically made me, dare I say, blitz proof when I'm looking for the blitz. Now, if you surprise me, yeah, it's a different story. But that is the cat and mouse game that you play when you play football, especially Madden. So people always want to know, how long did it take for you to figure out all this stuff and to start winning games? Well, within a week, I was seeing a difference in the way I was performing. I still wasn't winning as many games as I wanted. I don't think anybody ever does. But within a week, I saw my win percentage go up ever so slightly. You know, it'd be like 2 extra games every 100. And that might not seem like a lot, but when you win those 2 extra games, you like winning those 2 extra games. After about a month, I was building confidence in this new system that I figured out. I won't even say created, because I watched a lot of football and read about football a lot and figured out what was what. But I felt confident that I could have a chance to compete against virtually anybody. And then after 2 months, I was able to look at, I'd seen enough defenses, seen enough alignments. I was able to diagnose exactly where I failed when my protections weren't working. And within a few times seeing a defense or blitz, identified a proper protection and block whatever that blitz was. So some people ask me, well, since you can run an offense from under center, why don't you add shotgun? Well, the answer to that is 3 answers to that. First, many of the trips and bunch formations that are available in the shotgun formations are available in single back formations. Most of the football principles I learned back in 2003 still work to keep blitzes from getting to my quarterback. So I don't feel like I need to go to shotgun. It was one of those things, I'm just not going to do it at first. And then now it's just no longer a necessity. And in my 16th year, I've developed an eye for detail that I wouldn't have had had I not had that 16 years of experience. And because I know what to look for, I know what my opponents are trying to do to me. If they're going to try and blitz me, I know how they have to do it. And I've developed the experience that means that shotgun formations just simply aren't necessary. So there you have it. You know why I don't have to use shotgun formations. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, send me a like, leave a comment. I'd like to thank Sam Malec and Nicolas Randolph for submitting questions. I'm glad that you checked out the other videos, and I hope you like this one. Thanks, fellas.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube channel for more Madden NFL 19 videos, and check out MaddenUniversity.com for more strategies, communities, and competition. Until next time, keep striving for excellence, and may the best plan